Welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast, where leadership aligns with principles. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host. I'm here today with Bill Colone, a good colleague and friend. Bill Colone with Single Pass. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, to get our audience a little bit acquainted with you and your background, your organization, maybe take us down a little bit of memory lane and bring us up to speed on your current endeavors and what's going on in your life and kind of how you got there and the pedigree behind you. It'd be wonderful to hear that, and I think our audience would be delighted to learn about your background.
Sure. A lot of it's been incredible luck and incredible timing, but I've been developing devices, medical devices, mostly for vascular surgeons and interventional radiologists for over 40 years. Actually, this June will be my 43-year anniversary of creating devices. It all started with a degree in chemical engineering from Arizona State University, and I was fortunate in my job hunt that there was a local vascular surgery company that was looking for a process engineer. So very lucky that it was literally 2 miles away from where I went to college. Went and interviewed and accepted that job and worked at that company for 11 and a half years. And during that time, that was extremely valuable because at the time they hired me, I think I was employee number 25. They had revenue of about $1 million a year. And by the time I left, we were closing in on $50 million in revenue and had over 250 employees, and about half of them worked for me. It was very fortunate timing that I got in. I ran the R&D departments, most of manufacturing, and sometimes even quality. So that gave me the device development background that I needed to launch my career. Thereafter, I was extremely fortunate again that a local, very famous cardiovascular surgeon wanted to do a startup company, and I developed a relationship with him. And so he reached out to me. And so the next gig was also 11 years. We had our endovascular startup company that we sold in 2005. And everything thereafter came from those two opportunities. I became known as a reasonable subject matter expert for developing medical devices. And over half of my career, I've been an entrepreneur. And the way those go is because of the physician connections, I'll get outreach from physicians with product ideas. If I like the ideas, I'll circle back with some of my partners that fit whatever area, whether it's neurovascular, endovascular, peripheral vascular. We will co-found a company with the physicians. We will go raise the money. We'll do the design and the development, and then we'll start a company. So Single Pass, the current endeavor, started in such that manner. I had a hand surgeon in Phoenix, Arizona that I developed a product for, and we sold it to Stryker. So anytime thereafter that a friend had an idea, he would connect them with me. And 4 years ago, he introduced me to two interventional radiologists in Phoenix, Arizona that had this great idea for an electrocautery biopsy closure device, one of its kind and never been done before. So I did a little due diligence, circled back with some of my partners here. We co-founded a company with those folks. We raised the money. And the last year, late 2023, we received the CE mark under the new EU MDR tougher regulations. And in April of 2024, we received FDA clearance. So now we are right in the midst of our global commercial launch. We are selling in over 17 countries, and we're full on in the US. I know we at least have 40 hospitals using the device already. And right now the focus is on growing the business so we can become an acquisition target. So that's kind of the genesis of all these things that I do, start from introductions.
Wow. So with your background and being very process oriented, I'm curious, I'm sure our audience is also curious. Is there some recipe, formula, or common denominators for when you decide to get behind something or when it speaks to you and says, geez, this is a solution looking for that problem that we need to solve?
Yes, absolutely. Very straightforward. Every analysis is always the same thing. So first and foremost, the folks that I know and myself, we believe we have to add something to it. So like we don't do drugs. We don't do like orthopedic devices. We mostly know vascular surgery, endovascular surgery, interventional radiology. So anything outside of that realm, we'll just pass on because we don't believe we can add anything. But if it's in those realms, then we look for a clear and well-defined market. You never can create market need for these things. It's either there or it's not. The solution proposed by the physicians needs to be um, obvious that it meets the unmet need. And then you go through more of the technical parts of, can we get IP around it? Is it manufacturable at a margin? Do we know there's potential reimbursement from Medicare and private insurance? So it's basically the same thing, but it all starts with the market. If we can very clearly define that, yeah, the market is large and it's growing, and you can apply some numbers to that, and it makes sense. That'll be the very first thing that makes us move to the next more technical steps of IP diligence, manufacturability around the technology, and especially getting the margin. I've had some great ideas, but they were so expensive to manufacture, you could not sell them at a profit. So we'll balance all of those things that go into yes, we can do it, or no, we can't. And the final leg of that is, do we have a clear regulatory path? Do we know for sure class two or class three device? And then we always start with the end in mind. We always, right out of the gate, we'll go, okay, if we are successful and get to the market, who can we sell this to? Are there 5, 8, 10 companies that would be obvious suitors? So that's what we go through all the time. And probably 9.5 times out of 10, the product ideas won't meet that criteria. So it's a pretty thorough diligence. That's why, we do these things one at a time, or sometimes they overlap a little bit, but it's the same exercise every time.
And Bill, over your career, has it been the physicians, surgeons that are the dominant generators of the ideas and birthing those ideas for the devices that you then analyze?
Absolutely. So we even advertise that we do physician inspired ideas because they see the patients every day. I've got over 50 something patents, and the folks I work with have many more than I do. But every single time, it's been a physician coming to us because they know what's lacking in their practice. We don't. We'll know how to build it. We'll know how to do the steps of getting it designed, developed, tested, and approved. But 100% of the time, we're relying on the ideas to come from the physicians.
And one more curiosity I have as we're digging into this, because this is really unique stuff. Is it the is it the process that you apply that the physicians see as the most value, or is it the ability in terms of creating the device, or is it the ability to choke it down through the regulators and get it approved? Or I imagine it's a combination, but is one more powerful and dominant than the other?
I think you're right. It is a combination. First of all, the physicians are so busy, they know they don't have the time, or most likely, in most cases, the knowledge to do it. And all these involve raising capital. And usually the physicians, again, do not have that experience or the bandwidth to do so. And then again, putting together teams or finding vendors and consultants that can get you from the very beginning stage. Sometimes these things are simple drawings on a piece of paper. Occasionally, like in single pass, the physicians already had one issued patent and a pending patent and a working prototype. But yeah, they realize, we're working, 60, 70 hours a week taking care of our patients. Very difficult to try to go on our own. And then they look for, and I'll dare say it, reputation and past success. So that's why we get so much outreach.
Yes. Now you're working in an arena where the Hippocratic Oath is dominant and pervasive and necessary. Um, so, not that you have to take that, but the physicians you're working with conduct themselves under that oath. So, I'd like to kind of shift gears as that is the platform, shift right back into the core of why we have this podcast, and ask you the question: when you think about it, what does the word integrity mean to Bill Colone?
Very, very simple. And I had great parenting growing up in kind of a very simplified version. Always do what you say you're going to do and be honest. And that's the core of developing your reputation. And I think myself and my partners have a good reputation. That's why I've been able to do this for over 40 years. And my key partner, Dave Ferreira, he's been doing this over 30 years. And I think folks have learned that if they work with us, they're going to be well informed of what's going on. They have a reasonable chance for success because we've had some wins. And I think they always view that there isn't going to be anything shady, nothing's going to be hidden, and we will only make products that we're very certain before they touch the patient are not going to cause any harm. So I think that goes a long way to creating the combination of these are honest, hardworking guys that know the process and have had success in the past. So they give us a reasonable chance if we partner with them. We trust them with our device ideas.
Yes, yes. Now you've been in business for a number of years before Single Pass. You told me about at least two other journeys. That first one, correct me if I'm wrong, you started out with you were the 25th employee. There were 250 by the time you left 11 years later, and most of them or many of them were under your and reported to you. So
Mhm.
if that's accurate, tell me in that environment or any of the other environments that came later how integrity played a role in your leadership style.
I think it helped, again, about half of the folks, since I was in charge of manufacturing and all of engineering, which included engineering design and R&D engineering. Again, and then key to our success of growing our portfolio were positive relationships with physicians that came to us with new ideas or device iteration ideas. And I think the folks trusted me, that worked with me. They knew I was going to be honest and upfront with them. I tend to be way more of a hands-off leader, and I think that folks appreciated that. But also, they knew they were going to get honest and direct feedback. So I don't think they questioned my ability to lead, and I don't think they ever felt like I toyed with them. I think I was straightforward, and I was honest, and they knew they were going to get honest feedback.
Yes, absolutely. So, Bill, when you think about the impact of integrity on consumer customer loyalty, what's your experience been there?
Again, I think the same thing. The trust needs to be there. Oh, I don't know why it happened there. Trust needs to be there from the onset, and again, a lot of it is based on the reputation. Nowadays, with social media and the internet, a lot can be learned about most individuals, before you even meet them or before you even talk to them. So, and also, since the network is so large, it's possible to get a lot of feedback on folks before you make a decision if you're going to work with them or not.
Yes.
So, I think you need a sterling reputation and uh, and actually a lot of supporters, folks that will speak on your behalf, and that'll be key to continue to grow businesses and get new business opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you think about it over the course of those 43 years, or maybe even before that in your personal life, can you share with our audience a time where the counterparty, the folks you were interacting with, did not bring to the table a level of integrity sufficient or
Hmm.
completely fooled you with lacking integrity somewhere along the way in the process and how that went and what you did about it.
Yeah, just at one specific example, in one of the companies about 8 or 10 years ago, I had to deal with someone who lacked integrity, and uh, I didn't listen to my instincts. I think I knew going in that this was going to be someone that was going to be difficult to handle, but uh, I ignored those feelings and set them aside. I just wanted to do this proposed job and project so badly that I set that aside, knowing that I was dealing with a guy that wasn't that didn't have a great reputation and didn't have integrity. But I thought I could manage someone not like me, and I learned that that was a mistake, and it's either there or it's not, and it had a very bad outcome. Literally, I took a job as a CEO of a company, and this person got me fired. So in my 43 years of experience, I've been fired one time, and that was it. I thought I could handle this person that had a little bit of authority with what was going on, and did some not so wonderful things behind my back, which led to me being dismissed. And at first I was ashamed of that and said, how could this happen for who I am and what I know? But I think I learned from that and came out on the other end much better. And hey, trust your instincts. I knew going in that it was going to potentially be an issue, and I didn't listen to my instincts.
Yeah, maybe tell our audience. I rarely dive this deep with someone about that, but I'm curious again about how you monitor that sense of instinct and how you listen to it. Is there something you've learned over the years that you might be able to share with our audience about, especially our younger viewers, on how you have come to command and pay attention to what is that inner voice and that instinct that's telling you something intuitively?
I think now, I mean, from a combination of being so old and also working in this field so long, you just develop it over time. Probably when I was younger, I was more naive and would believe everything and anything someone said. But this was just mostly from speaking with this person quite a bit, and also getting feedback from others that knew this person. And again, the feedback you want to hear wasn't really there, but it was, you know, I would say middle of the road. And I think folks probably didn't want to speak badly about this individual, but they weren't going to speak positively about that individual. And that should have told me what I'm feeling is what's there, because, I can't get anyone to say, this is a great guy. And, oh my gosh, you've got to work with him. In fact, I was getting quite the opposite of, could be difficult. You're going to have your work cut out for you, that type of stuff. And I thought, hey, Bill, you're so smart and you've done this so much, you'll handle him. And I remember talking to one of the partners in the business about a year into it. And he said, yeah, you took on a little bit something that you thought you could handle that you can't. And I had to admit, yeah, you're right. So should have trusted my instincts, but I learned a lot from that. And I'm actually glad that path was taken. It led to what I'm doing now with Single Pass. So the outcome was okay.
How interesting. Success and the opposite side of success leaves clues. And, we have to tune into what those clues are, because often when it's confirmed that someone is not going to conduct themselves with integrity, boy, we wish we were probably not in the midst of that narrative at the time, right?
Oh, exactly. I had a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of, again, regrets about, hey, listen to yourself, listen to what you knew going in. And maybe I overrated myself. I thought too highly of myself that I can handle this person. And I would say lack of integrity is probably more powerful than having integrity.
Yes, like gravity. The negative part will be pulling down the positives for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you remind me of something my former partner would talk about is intellect, where sometimes our intellect will lead us down paths because we feel we have sufficient armor intellectually to deal with a
Yeah.
lot of things that will go down paths that we otherwise know we shouldn't have.
I mean, that's a great way to put it. I felt like I was smart enough and tough enough and experienced enough to take a path that I most likely should not have taken.
Yeah, nothing simple. Well, one of the things I wanted to see, 43 years professionally, what would you share with our younger viewers, not necessarily in the area of integrity, but the area of, there are a lot of them launching businesses, getting into business and professions, going to work now. What would you tell our younger audience are things to look for, look out for? Um, any of the inside tips that helped you propel your career, and how you found that first home, and with that organization, and anything else that would be insightful for them.
I think the thing that helped the most was the 1 week into the first job, I had a super smart boss, PhD from MIT, and still maybe one of the brightest people that I've ever met. He told me to work on the network, work on connections, work on building relationships. And he said, not just at the time, this was 1982, it wasn't just collecting business cards. Of course, no such thing as cell phones or LinkedIn. It was going to the meetings, developing relationships. If you get a business card, you have to reach out to folks and offer help. Don't be the person that only reaches out when they need something. And that focus on creating the network, and for a while I probably had the world's largest Rolodex, although they don't have those anymore. But I have a reasonable LinkedIn following and a lot of connections on LinkedIn. But really focused on making sure I attended everything possible, even if I was tired, even if I didn't want to go. And while I was at those events, whether it was a meeting or a business dinner or even a casual get together for a professional organization, I worked the relationships. I met the physicians, made sure I let them know I was interested in learning more about them and their families, even met family members, would reach out to them, offer help, offer assistance. And I think folks started to learn that, yeah, Bill will stay in touch, and it's not always because he needs something. It's, he routinely has something to offer. So that helped me so much because after the very first job, and that first job led to developing a relationship with that very famous cardiovascular surgeon. And thereafter, every opportunity has come from relationships. I don't any longer need to go interview for jobs. I get outreach people wanting to work with me. And I think the thing I'm most proud of is I would think 99% of the folks that have worked with me before would do it again. And one kind of data point I have, if I once we sell single pass and I post the next position on LinkedIn, over 100 people ask me for a job. They'll ask if they can come back and work for me again. That happens every time there's a success and I move on. I get the same outreach. So it lets me know that still people regard me as being successful and would want to work with me if they've worked with me in the past.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I took away at least three legs from that stool. One, be be absolutely committed to building your network. When you
Mhm.
build that network, stay involved and connected to that network. And one of the
Mhm.
best ways to stay connected is to reach out with how can I help and what can I do.
Yeah, exactly. I still go to the local med device meetings here. There's a couple organizations, Device Alliance and Medical Innovation Exchange. And I know, I no longer need to go, but I go to all of those to support the organizers because I know them and to make new connections. And there was just one last Wednesday, and I went to it and met about 10 new people that all instantly connected with me on LinkedIn. And some of them I potentially will do business with because of their backgrounds. But each one, when they connected or if they emailed me, I let them know, hey, let me know what you're doing next if I can help, or let me know if I potentially could be a reference for you if you're seeking something else, or let me know with where you are now, is there anything I can do for you that I have in my skill set? So instantly, offer assistance. And a lot of times they don't need it or don't, they're not at the right time for it, but just the offer gains a lot of credibility.
Yes, absolutely. There was a saying with one of the philanthropic groups I belong to, the leader would say, "Don't worry about being a go getter, start being a go giver."
That's great. Had never heard that before. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that sounded like what you were doing, is figuring out how you can give best. And as we give, we also shall receive, I guess, biblically sound. Well, Bill, one of the things that we have been curating with our community, and it might be it's off topic, but I am curious about this, and I'm making it a point in every one of our podcast shows going forward, is to ask the guest about their bucket list. One, have you formed it, and would you share anything that's on there, or if you're forming it right now, contemporaneously, what would be on that bucket list as your top one or two things that you want to get achieved in life? And it's from all sorts of things: acquire this, or experience that, or do some good here or there. What comes to mind when you think about Bill Cologne's bucket list?
Yeah, I don't per se have a bucket list. I think I've done almost everything I want to do and been almost everywhere I want to go and have everything I want to have. But I think uh, I want to get to a point where I'm in a position, right now I work 50, 60 hours a week, focusing so hard on the startup. I do a little consulting on the side. I'm on, I think, 5 or 6 boards. They don't take up much time, but I'd like to get to a position where I can contribute not only money but time to charities. There's a few that are meaningful to me, and so I'd rather be in a position where instead of starting emails at 6 a.m. and finishing at 8 p.m. and going to meetings all day, it'd be great if that was just sporadic, maybe 6, 8, 10 hours a week, and the rest of the time I could focus on spending donating not just cash but time to these charities. So I'd like to be in the position to do that. I can do it a little bit now, but I'm just too busy to really dive in.
Yeah, so you are echoing the go giver mentality for sure there. And in the nonprofit arena where I work, we say it's the three T's. It's your treasure, it's your
Mhm.
time, and it's your
Mhm.
talent that you can bring to the table for those nonprofits and their missions and endeavors for sure. And boy, you're going to make a heck of an impact when you're able to transition to that. Well, as we're rounding the corner, Bill, and folks probably are curious about how do they get in touch with Bill Colone, and what's the best way you would tell them?
Sure. I mean, they can find me on LinkedIn just through Bill Colone, and reach out to connect. Sometimes folks send a message or just a connection request. I also will give out my personal email, and it's just bcologne@gmail.com. If folks aren't on LinkedIn or don't want to use that platform, then they can email me. So I answer every email within 24 hours, regardless. And sometimes it may be, hey, you need to wait. I'm too busy to give you a thorough response. But that's always the goal. I respond wherever the connection request comes from or email comes from. I respond to everything within 24 hours. And that's what I learned from that very famous cardiovascular surgeon. I saw how busy he was, but he told me that was his intent, that he did that. And he was busier than I'll ever be. And he still lived by that. So that was another very early lesson. And again, I think you send emails to folks and you don't hear back at all, or you don't hear back for several weeks, and you just kind of wonder, where do I sit in their line of importance? But that's been very valuable as well.
Yes, and when you talk about important, I have a saying I try to share it with my kids. It's certainly not mine, but it's one I repeat often. I say there's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do the important things.
Exactly right. You've got sayings for all the things, everything I say, you sum up so succinctly with all these little things. That's great.
I appreciate it. And Cologne, Colone, correct?
Correct.
Wonderful. So Bcolone for Bill Cologne. That is, it was at Gmail.
At
At
gmail.com. Yep.
Gmail. Wonderful. Well, we've had a delightful half hour together. It's been really impactful. You've added wonderful insights. Our audience is a real beneficiary of it. And Bill, I want to thank you for coming on The Power of Integrity and being such a delightful guest. The time flew by, and I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Ralph. Deeply appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. We'll see you all soon on our next cast in not too long. Bye for now, everybody.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc.